A millionaire woman forced to sing as a joke. Her voice left the entire hall speechless. The Crystal Ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel in Manhattan glittered with the soft light of 1,000 candles as New York's elite gathered for the annual Children's Hospital Foundation Gala. Among the sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, 43-year-old Catherine Vale moved through the crowd with the practiced grace of someone who had attended countless such events throughout her privileged life. Catherine was the sole heir to the Vale Industries fortune, a manufacturing empire built by her grandfather and expanded by her father into one of the most successful conglomerates on the East Coast. Since inheriting control of the company 5 years earlier, she had proven herself to be a shrewd businesswoman who commanded respect in boardrooms dominated by men twice her age. Her reputation was built on analytical thinking, strategic planning, and an almost intimidating level of professional competence. What the business world didn't know about Catherine was that she carried within her a secret that she had guarded carefully since childhood. Before she had been groomed to take over the family empire, before she had learned to speak in measured corporate phrases and make decisions based on profit margins, Catherine had possessed a gift that transcended the material world entirely, an extraordinary singing voice that could move people to tears. As a young girl, Catherine had dreamed of pursuing music professionally. She had spent hours in her family's music room, working with private vocal coaches who marveled at her natural talent and emotional range. Her voice had been her truest form of self-expression, the one area of her life where she felt completely authentic and free from the expectations that came with her family name. However, those dreams had been systematically discouraged by her parents, who viewed artistic pursuits as frivolous distractions from the serious business of managing wealth and maintaining social position. By the time Catherine reached college age, her musical aspirations had been replaced by business courses, networking events, and the gradual assumption of responsibilities within the family company. For over 2 decades, Catherine had buried that part of herself so deeply that most people who knew her would have been shocked to learn she could carry a tune, let alone perform with professional-level skill. She had become the epitome of the reserved, analytical executive, someone who expressed herself through financial reports and strategic presentations rather than through art or emotion. Tonight's gala was typical of the social obligations that filled Catherine's calendar. She attended not because she particularly enjoyed these events, but because maintaining relationships within New York's philanthropic community was essential for both her business interests and her family's social standing. She wrote substantial checks to various causes, served on several nonprofit boards, and appeared at the requisite number of fundraising events each year. The evening had proceeded predictably through cocktails, dinner, and the formal program of speeches thanking donors for their generosity. Catherine had participated in the silent auction, bidding successfully on a vacation package that she would probably never use, and had politely acknowledged the recognition she received for her family foundation's latest contribution to the hospital's pediatric wing. The atmosphere began to shift during the entertainment portion of the evening, when the event organizers introduced a segment designed to showcase the hidden talents of various attendees. What had been conceived as light-hearted entertainment quickly developed into a series of increasingly elaborate challenges as wealthy guests tried to outdo each other with surprising revelations about their personal interests and abilities. Prominent investment banker revealed his skill at magic tricks, performing card illusions that delighted the audience. A federal judge demonstrated her expertise at ballroom dancing, gracefully waltzing with the evening's master of ceremonies. A real estate mogul surprised everyone by reciting poetry he had written, drawing appreciative applause from the sophisticated crowd. As the evening progressed, the challenges became more ambitious and the audience more engaged. The combination of expensive wine, competitive spirits, and the desire to be memorable in a room full of accomplished people created an atmosphere where guests were willing to take risks they might normally avoid. It was during this heightened mood that Catherine found herself the target of a good-natured but persistent campaign by several acquaintances who were determined to discover what hidden talent she might possess. Led by Margaret Thornton, the wife of a prominent attorney and a woman known for her ability to convince people to participate in activities they would normally refuse, the group had noticed Catherine's habitual reserve and decided to make drawing her out their evenings project. Margaret and her allies approached their campaign with the strategic thinking that characterized most of their business and social endeavors. They began by praising the courage of previous participants, emphasizing how much the audience had enjoyed discovering unexpected dimensions of people they thought they knew well. They pointed out that Catherine's consistent support for the arts through her foundation suggested she must have some personal appreciation for creative expression. Catherine's initial resistance was polite but firm. She insisted that she had no particular talents worth sharing and preferred to remain in her familiar role as an appreciative audience member. However, her deflections only seemed to increase the group's determination to include her in the evening's entertainment. The turning point came when Margaret made an observation that struck uncomfortably close to home. She suggested that Catherine's reluctance to participate might stem from a fear of appearing vulnerable or imperfect in front of her peers, a challenge to her professional image that was difficult to ignore without seeming defensive. The comment touched on something that Catherine had been grappling with for years without fully acknowledging. Her success in business had been built partly on maintaining a facade of invulnerability and complete control. She had learned to suppress any display of emotion or uncertainty that might be interpreted as weakness by competitors or subordinates. However, this protective strategy had also created a profound sense of isolation. Catherine realized that she had built walls so high around her authentic self that even she sometimes forgot who she truly was beneath the corporate persona she presented to the world. The group's persistence, combined with the unusual atmosphere of the evening, and perhaps the effects of the champagne she had been sipping throughout dinner, gradually wore down Catherine's defenses. When someone finally suggested that she might have a beautiful singing voice, a guess based on nothing more than her elegant speaking voice and refined appearance, Catherine felt a shock of recognition that she couldn't hide. The moment of hesitation that followed her denial was enough to convince the group that they had identified her hidden talent. Their excitement became infectious, and before Catherine fully realized what was happening, she found herself being gently but inexorably guided toward the small stage that had been set up for the evening's entertainment. Standing at the microphone, looking out at a room full of New York's most influential citizens, Catherine experienced a moment of panic unlike anything she had felt in a boardroom or business negotiation. These people knew her as the composed, analytical CEO of Vail Industries. They expected her to maintain the carefully controlled image she had spent decades perfecting. But as the pianist asked what song she would like to perform, Catherine realized that she was standing at a crossroads that went far beyond a single evening's entertainment. She could choose a safe option, perhaps, a simple song that would meet the audience's expectations without revealing too much about herself. Or she could risk everything by allowing her authentic voice, with all its power and emotional complexity, to emerge after decades of silence. The choice she made in that moment would determine not only how the evening ended, but how the rest of her life would unfold. As Catherine stood before the microphone, the ballroom fell into an expectant hush. The audience, accustomed to the polished performances and calculated presentations that characterized their professional lives, anticipated a pleasant but unremarkable musical interlude from someone they viewed primarily as a successful businesswoman fulfilling a social obligation. Catherine closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of 2 decades of suppressed dreams and authentic self-expression pressing against her chest. In that moment of silence, she made a decision that surprised even herself. She would not sing something safe or predictable. Instead, She would perform the song that had meant the most to her during those long ago years, when music had been her sanctuary and her truest form of communication. The song she chose was Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, a piece that required not only technical skill, but emotional depth and vulnerability. It was a song that demanded complete authenticity from the performer, making it impossible to hide behind technique or theatricality. As she whispered her choice to the pianist, she saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes. This was not what anyone had expected from the reserved corporate executive. When the first notes of the piano introduction filled the ballroom, a subtle shift occurred in the atmosphere. The casual chatter that had continued during previous performances faded away completely. Something in the pianist's more serious approach to the accompaniment signaled to the audience that they were about to witness something different from the light-hearted entertainment they had enjoyed earlier. Catherine drew a deep breath and began to sing, her voice emerging with a richness and power that seemed to transform the very air in the room. The first word, now, resonated with a depth of emotion that immediately captured every person's attention. Her voice carried the accumulated weight of years of silence, dreams deferred, and authentic feelings suppressed in service of professional expectations. As Catherine continued through the opening verse, her technical mastery became evident to everyone in the audience. Her voice moved effortlessly through the song's challenging range, demonstrating the kind of control and artistry that could only come from years of serious training and natural talent. But more than technical skill, her performance revealed a depth of emotion and life experience that transformed the familiar song into something entirely new. The audience, initially surprised by the quality of her voice, quickly became mesmerized by the authenticity of her performance. Catherine wasn't simply singing the words, she was living them, pouring decades of suppressed passion and carefully hidden vulnerability into every note. Her voice carried the pain of dreams abandoned, the weight of expectations fulfilled at personal cost, and the profound longing for authentic self-expression that she had carried in silence for so many years. As she reached the song's soaring chorus, Catherine's voice filled every corner of the ballroom with a power that seemed to vibrate in the very bones of the listeners. The word hallelujah became a prayer, a celebration, and a lament all at once, expressing complex emotions that the reserved businesswoman had never allowed herself to reveal in any other context. The transformation in Catherine herself was as remarkable as the sound of her voice. The rigid posture and controlled expressions that characterized her public persona melted away, replaced by the fluid grace and emotional openness of a true artist. For the first time in decades, she was completely herself, not the CEO of Vale Industries, not the dutiful heir to a business empire, but simply Catherine, sharing her deepest truth through the medium that had always been her most authentic form of expression. The audience, initially stunned by the unexpected revelation of Catherine's talent, found themselves deeply moved by the emotional honesty of her performance. These were people who spent their professional lives maintaining careful facades and managing public perceptions, and they recognized the extraordinary courage it took to reveal such vulnerability in front of peers and competitors. As Catherine's voice navigated the song's intricate emotional landscape, moving from whispered tenderness to soaring power and back to intimate confession, several audience members found themselves moved to tears. The combination of her technical mastery and emotional authenticity created a performance that transcended entertainment to become something approaching a spiritual experience. When Catherine reached the final verse, her voice took on an even deeper resonance, as if she were singing not just for the audience, but for herself, for the young woman who had dreamed of a career in music, for the girl who had found her truest self in melody and lyrics, and for the executive who had spent decades wondering what might have been different if she had chosen courage over safety. The final hallelujah that concluded the song was delivered with such power and emotion that it seemed to hang in the air long after the sound had faded. Catherine stood at the microphone for a moment after finishing, her eyes still closed, as if reluctant to return to the world where she was expected. To be someone other than the artist she had just revealed herself to be. The silence that followed her performance was profound and complete. For several seconds, the entire ballroom remained perfectly still, as 400 of New York's most sophisticated citizens processed what they had just witnessed. The woman they had known as a reserved, analytical businesswoman had just delivered one of the most moving musical performances any of them had ever experienced. When the applause finally began, it started slowly but quickly built to a thunderous ovation that lasted several minutes. The audience rose to their feet as one, their enthusiasm driven not just by appreciation for Catherine's talent, but by recognition of the courage she had shown in revealing such a profound part of herself. As Catherine opened her eyes and looked out at the standing ovation, she experienced a rush of emotions that she had forgotten were possible. The fear and vulnerability she had felt before singing were replaced by a sense of completion and authenticity that she hadn't experienced since childhood. For the first time in decades, she felt truly seen and appreciated for who she actually was rather than for what she had accomplished or inherited. The immediate aftermath of her performance brought a stream of audience members to congratulate her, but their comments revealed how fundamentally her revelation had changed their perception of her. People who had known her for years spoke as if they were meeting her for the first time, expressing amazement not just at her vocal ability, but at the depth of emotion and authenticity she had displayed. More significantly, Catherine's performance sparked conversations throughout the remainder of the evening about the hidden aspects of successful people's lives and the courage required to reveal one's authentic self in professional and social contexts. Her willingness to risk her carefully maintained image had given others permission to consider what parts of themselves they had suppressed in service of career advancement or social acceptance. In the weeks that followed the gala, Catherine found herself at another crossroads. The response to her performance had been overwhelmingly positive, with several people suggesting that she consider returning to music in some capacity. Record producers who had been in the audience reached out through mutual acquaintances, and invitations to perform at other high-profile events began arriving regularly. Catherine's decision about how to respond to these opportunities would determine whether her moment of revelation became a single evening's entertainment or the beginning of a fundamental transformation in how she lived her life. She had proven to herself and others that her artistic abilities remained intact after decades of neglect, but integrating that aspect of herself into her established life would require the same kind of strategic thinking and courage that had made her successful in business. The story concluded with Catherine establishing a nonprofit organization that used musical performance and arts education to help other accomplished professionals reconnect with creative aspects of themselves that had been suppressed in service of career development. Her own journey from corporate executive to authentic artist became a model for others seeking to integrate their various talents and interests into more fulfilling lives. Her performance that evening had done more than showcase a hidden talent. It had demonstrated the transformative power of authenticity and the profound impact that occurs when people have the courage to reveal their truest selves to the world.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.